Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Kingdom Come Deliverance and we're doing another of our standardized armor guides, and today it's going to be for the Noble's Plate Armor, which you could probably tell from the title and thumbnail of this video. Now keep in mind, we're going to be trying to follow the rules at least as well as we can for our standardized armor guide, so there's going to be as little variation as possible, and we're going to be sticking to the rules where we try to keep one type of armor, so we're not mixing and matching our plate and brigandine pieces, as we avoid that whenever possible, so that way we have a designated plate armor. And then later, since there are quite a few, for this suit in particular, Noble's brigandine type pieces, we're also going to be doing a Noble brigandine armor. I'll probably do that as my next armor guide if I'm being honest, because, you know, I'm already working with the Noble stuff. So we're going to be using our named items that go together whenever possible, and that is going to affect our base layer in this one, but it does not affect the stats much, so it's still very, very comparable, because the base layer for this one is still going to be very, very close stat-wise to the normal base layer that we use. But other than that, remember, we stick to the rules of we use our named items that we can, and then if any other parts that need to be filled in, so for this suit in particular, there are 2 pieces of armor that we have to fill in. Remember, we do not use any items that are named to go with another set. I know a lot of people like to pair the Nuremberg arms and gauntlets with the Noble's armor. Well, those are Nuremberg armor. They do not belong with this armor, and so we will not use them with this armor. I recognize that they look good with this armor, but if they were meant to go with the suit of armor, they should have been named to go with this suit of armor. So with all that being said, we're gonna do 3 different suits of armor for this one. They're all gonna be using the exact same parts, just different color varieties, and you'll be able to see through that there is a lot of variety in the Noble's plate armor in this game. So let's just dive on in and start off with the base layer. So since we've got 3 suits to go through, I'm not going to go crazy in depth today, but I will just explain it here. So our base layer has changed slightly. We still have the Noble's belt and Noble's pouch, which don't affect the stats much other than their meager value and weight. They're just the best in slot items, so I always use them. Outside of that, we have swapped out our short Pourpont for the Noble Gambeson, which has slightly lower stats in its primary stat, but slightly higher otherwise. So it's still very, very comparable. I use this obviously because it's Noble, and it just fits the suit of armor very well. And then we did the same with the pants. Instead of having the padded chausses, which are better than the Noble's quilted hose, we have the Noble's quilted hose. So we take a stat hit here, but it definitely fits for roleplay reasons and looks good, and the stats are still almost as good. So that's our base layer, and for all 3 suits of armor, we'll be using just different color varieties of these same items. So that's our first layer. I almost forgot, people like seeing it from the outside, so there's the front, there's the side, and there's the back. Now let's move on to the second layer. So our second layer stays fairly consistent with the rest of the armor guides being the same pieces, so we have one of the variants of the hauberk long, then we have a male collar with badge, and a male hood with coat of arms. So this is the same second layer that we have for every single suit of armor in this series. It provides us quite a bit of weight, but also a lot of that base and very important protection. From the outside, it looks like this from the front, this from the side, and this from the back. So that's our second layer. Let's add on our top layer so I can show you what the first suit of Noble plate armor looks like. So there we have our top layer all put on, and you can see for our first suit, we went with a dark variant. So we've got a dark blued, almost blackened steel aesthetic for it with the gold trim, and I think it looks really good, which is why I chose to go with this one for our first suit that we'd be looking at today, and almost certainly decided to use it for the thumbnail because I just really love the way it looks. I love a knight in shining armor, but even more, I love a knight in dark blued or blackened armor. It just looks slick, especially with those gold accents. But anyway, let's go through the items. So we used the Noble's bassinet, obviously, as one of the absolute best helmets in the game, and one that is named to go with the Noble's plate armor. It was the obvious choice. Stats on this one are stab defense of 134, slash defense of 98, and blunt defense of 34. Then we, of course, have the Noble's plate legs, because again, we're going for Noble's plate armor, so this is another one of the named pieces. These ones have a stab defense of 134, slash defense of 98, and blunt defense of 34. Then we have the Noble's cuirass, which, again, obvious choice for, you know, why we would use this. Stab defense on this one of 126, slash defense of 92, and blunt defense of 33. So overall, very, very good 3 armor pieces, and that is what we need to qualify for a standardized armor guide. We did not have named Noble's plate gauntlets or sleeves for this set, so we did our default where we're doing a suit of plate armor, and we went with the hourglass gauntlets and the plate knight gauntlets. And there are several varieties of these. We obviously chose the ones that matched the color of the suit the best. Now, like I said, I recognize that the Nuremberg stuff looks better with this suit of armor, but, you know, I would be breaking the rules if I used that for this suit. But that being said, this stuff is obviously still quite good. So, stats on the Hourglass gauntlets are stab defense of 119, slash defense of 86, and blunt defense of 31. Plate Knight gauntlets, it's a stab defense of 119, slash defense of 86, and blunt defense of 31. So, all in all, when we consider, you know, the base layer, our regular mail, and the plate, I think it is a extraordinarily good looking suit of armor. So not a whole lot to complain about there. That's our first variant of the Nobles plate armor. Let's show you the second one. And so here is the first layer for our second variant of the Nobles plate armor. You can see that we just swapped out the Nobles gambeson and the Nobles quilted hose for a different color match. We went with green because that is the overlying theme or underlying theme, whatever you want to call it, for this suit of armor. So that is our first layer for the second suit. Our second layer looks like this once we add the mail on, so it just covers up most of, you know, the visible portions of the gambeson, but you can still see a little bit sticking out. So there's our second layer. And moving on to our top layer, you can see that the aesthetic we've gone for this suit of Noble's armor is much lighter. So we still have the visible gold accents on both the leg armor and the cuirass, but it's a much lighter one now, and we've been able to match it all fairly well. So you can see we're still using the Noble's bassinet, Noble's plate legs, and the Noble cuirass, and then we also have the Hourglass gauntlets. We're just using a much lighter variant of them, and the Plate Knight gauntlets for our sleeves. So we were able to color match it fairly well, and I think this one also looks really good. Like I said, I really like the first one. I like that darker look better, but this one is still really good looking. And if you're going for that noble knight or maybe a paladin, or you're trying to roleplay as, you know, some very, very virtuous type character and you want your armor to visibly reflect that, then obviously this is probably the brightest, you know, well-matching suit of noble armor that you can go with. There's other pieces here and there in the nobles varieties that are brighter than some of these, but this one matches really well, and a lot of them don't quite. So that's our second variant of the Noble plate armor. Let's move on to the third and final variant that we'll be looking at today. All right, so for our third suit of armor, you can see that we've just swapped it out for a red aesthetic, and we have the red Noble's gambeson or Noble gambeson and the red Noble's quilted hose. And I tried to color match them and make it really rich and vivid looking. I'm pretty sure, just in case anybody's wondering where to get the shiny one, I think the Burgrave at Trotsky wore this specific gambeson. So that's one place to get it. But that's our first layer for the third variant of the Noble plate armor. Let's add the second. And so again, pretty standard looking. You can see a lot more red than, you know, well, I mean, there wasn't any red in the previous suit's first layer, but you can still see a little bit of red, but we've covered it up with our hauberk long, mail collar with badge, and mail hood with a coat of arms. So that's the second layer for the third variant of the Noble plate armor. Let's just add on the plate armor now. And so there you have it, kind of a middle ground between the first two. The first one was really dark, or was as dark as I could get a nice matching suit of this armor to look. The second one was as light as I could get one to look, and this one is somewhere in the middle. So you can see we're definitely closer to silver than we are to black, but it's a little bit darker, but it's very, very shiny. And that's one of the reasons I quite like this variant. So again, we stuck with the Noble's bassinet, the Noble's plate legs, and the Noble cuirass, but then we have the Hourglass gauntlets and Plate Knight gauntlets again. So overall, I think all three of these suits look very, very good in their own ways. You can let me know down in the comment section which of the three is your favorite. I would really enjoy kind of seeing what everyone else's opinion is. Like I said, I think my personal favorite is the first one, but I like all three of them, so it's hard for me to say. So stats for all three of these suits of armor are exactly the same, except for charisma, which varies a little bit piece to piece, but doesn't matter because this suit on average is going to be high enough that with some good jewelry and spurs, you're going to max it out at 30 anyway. So stats for the Noble plate armor are a total weight of 80.2 pounds, which is not that bad. It's actually lighter than a lot of the suits that we've looked at so far in the series. The total value for this, again, not accounting for weapons or anything like that, and like I said, we don't have jewelry on, we don't have spurs, we don't have any of that stuff. The value for this suit of armor is 19,609.2 Groschen, so just under 20,000, which for a suit of plate armor, not too bad. It's definitely more affordable than I think you'd guess based on looking at it. And for the armor value of the suit, going down the averages, for the head we have an average of 230.7, for the body we have an average of 202.3, For the arms, we have an average of 194, and for the legs, we have an average of 243.7, giving us our overall average armor rating, or AAR, of 217.7, which is not the highest out of all of the ones that we've covered in this series before, but it is pretty close to being the highest. It's definitely up there, and when we take out certain specialty sets like not Jezik set, but Peter Sukoleski's set, which was kind of cheaty because we ended up using very high level stuff that doesn't technically match with it. It just looks like it was designed to go together, and we built it around his cuirass. But if we stick to all the rest of the standardized armor guides where we follow every single rule, this one is one of the highest in there. So stat-wise, it's very, very good. And of course, that's on top of the most important thing, which is that it looks really cool. So all three of these sets are definitely great. So that's everything. I've showed you all of the items, and we've talked all the stats, so now I'll just leave you with well, first of all, I'm going to say goodbye, and hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time, and all that stuff that I usually say, but then I'm going to leave you with some high-definition stills that I took of all three of these suits, so enjoy that, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.